Hi, welcome to the After Sass. This is my follow-up video to Critical Sass, which is my new makeup release video. And what I like to do in this style of video is I like to look at my makeup collection to see if I have anything that's a lot like those new makeup releases to scratch the itch so I don't have to buy the new thing. I think this is a really fun activity to do also if you are very interested in new makeup. Looking at your collection first can be very helpful because a lot of the time the stuff that we're interested in tends to be the stuff that we buy a lot of. So the likelihood of us having it in our makeup collection is pretty high. I'm gonna start with my eyeshadow today. I'm not intending on doing like an intense eyeshadow look. I've been getting a lot of fallout on my finished products recently. I just want to avoid that a little bit. I talked about a couple different eyeshadow products in Critical Sass. The one that I'm mostly coming after in this video is the return of the original Naked palette, which is exciting for some people. For me, I still feel like it's kind of like a hollow release. We've been talking a lot about nostalgia makeup, meaning like taking an IP of something that millennials or Gen Z might be nostalgic for and putting that onto a makeup item. This feels to me like the very first nostalgia makeup re-release, if that makes sense. I know we talked about like MAC doing that with some of their iconic colors. I feel like MAC lipsticks are iconic, but I just don't feel like we live in a lipstick first world anymore. I feel like lipstick was like a lot of people's favorite category of makeup for a long time because it was like a kind of a simple step. I think most people feel comfortable putting on makeup, you know, like it feels like an approachable first step of makeup. But eyeshadow, you kind of have to be in it to be into an eyeshadow palette. So I just feel like this is like a different deal versus what we saw MAC doing with their re-releasing of some old shades that had been discontinued. And I looked at my makeup collection. I put out the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette because I feel like it also kind of crosses the border when it comes to a couple of the other eyeshadow releases we talked about. There was the Cheetah palette from Chantecaille, which I was like not really interested in, but I feel like there's a lot of tones in here that you could dupe out from that Cheetah palette, which is only 3 eyeshadow shades. And I also talked about that Urban Decay star-shaped eyeshadow palette, which I think right now we're not sure if that's going to come to the United States. I think that's, of the eyeshadow releases we talked about, would be the one I'd be most intrigued to like get my hands on. In reality, like the Urban Decay Naked palette would be like the one I would use the most if those were the only options of eyeshadows. I also talked about the Aptly whatever palette from Too Faced, which is like not even a color palette I would even go after. I am going to use like an orange terracotta red eyeliner today as like an ode to that, but I'm not going to add any like red on my eyeshadow. Also, there was some red in that palette from Guerlain, collaboration with Pucci and I don't even know, Barmo. That is also something that had red in it. So I think what I'm going to do today is actually do a mix of a couple of things. I'm going to use this for mattes, and I might use some of the sparkles on top to add extra sparkle to this. This is from Chantecaille, and I figured incorporating it into my look today, because I already had it, would be a pretty great idea. This is the shade Elephant, and it's a taupe. I figured that we could just build an eyeshadow look from this. I'm going to start with the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base. First of all, I want to thank you all so much for being so supportive. I'm so glad you enjoyed having Tiff on Critical Sass. That makes me really happy. You came with the right energy. Sometimes it is nervous making whenever you're inviting. I know that me and Tiff do a podcast, but no one really listens to the podcast. Not no one. That's not true. Not no one listens to the podcast, but the podcast is like a different size thing than what I have going on here. I'm just very thankful that you welcomed them into this space with open arms. And I know that they've been on the channel before, but again, this is different now than it was even a year ago, even 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like it's just a different beast now for everyone involved. So I really, really appreciate it. Another plug for Recollect. If you want to see more of me and Tiff, go subscribe to that channel. Kind of the deal of what's going on over that channel. If you see something with a thumbnail that looks like it was made, that's going to be a new episode. If you see something that just looks like a cover photo with wavelengths on the bottom, that's going to be an old video. So what we're doing is every other week will be a new episode and then a From the Vault episode. We have jumped ship a couple of times from like where we were hosting the podcast. Putting everything up on the YouTube channel is just an effort to have everything in one place instead of like, if you want to listen to old episodes, go here or go here or go here. And right now we're uploading episodes because Recollect, started for us when we were doing it together as a Patreon for another podcast that we had done. So some of the episodes have not been available in a really long time. If you do happen to go over there and listen to the old episodes, just be aware that the audio quality of some of the older episodes is not very good. I had a friend a couple years ago teach me a little bit on how to make my podcast sound better. And so it definitely just sounds better now. And also from doing YouTube, I've learned a little bit about audio. It is like different from, you know, place to place, like what you're doing with the audio. But like all that being said, I have learned a lot about audio, and I'm not even gonna try to joke about being like some kind of like master of audio at this point. All I'm saying is like, I'm much better at audio than I once was. And some of those older episodes really show where we, I guess they just kind of show the glow up, you know? It's good. And I think there should be space for that. So the next new episode will come out next Tuesday. And then the next episode after that will be our first video version of the podcast. When I say first, that's not like 100% true. We tried a couple times to do it whenever we were behind the paywall because some people wanted that. And my technology is a lot better now, so it's actually feasible. And again, I've learned a lot about audio, and because that podcast involves music and, you know, synchronization and stuff, I now know a lot more about that than I did. And so it's like much less frustrating of a thing for me to attempt to do now. Go subscribe over there. If you're just going to wait for the video episodes, just go subscribe now and you'll start seeing them pop up when they pop up. You can follow our Instagram if you make it worth our while, and I'm not really sure what that would have to look like, but if you make it worth our while, we might bring back Bopper Stop. Back whenever Recollect was on Spotify, we used to pull the music videos for the songs we talked about, or live performances, and make like vertical videos and post them in our Instagram stories, and then do a poll of the Bopper Stop just to like see what people thought that weren't us. It's a lot of work. A lot of that ends up falling on me, but that's just because I'm just more tech savvy. And then it's like, it became one of those things where people were voting in the thing, but not listening to the podcast. And I was like, more people would vote on the Instagram posts than would listen to the podcast because I could see the analytics. And I was like, I'm not doing this. If it's not working to transition people to listen to the podcast, then it's like not worth doing. It's fun. And I know that people really enjoyed doing that aspect of things back when we did it. But it was like, yeah, you enjoy this, but like the whole point of this is that it goes along with the podcast. But I also think moving the podcast to YouTube is going to be easier for people to find us. Not so much you, but like new people. Like, I mean, yes, you all obviously are you like know how to use YouTube. You found me some way or another. And, you know, but like, I kind of know the YouTube game a little bit more now. Anyway, I'm really happy that you all were very like kind to Tiff. That makes me feel very good. Makes me feel like what I'm cultivating here, you all get it. And I know you all get it because I'm here and you're a part of this with me. But like, you know, bringing someone from the outside in and you guys just like lovingly open arms inviting them into this space is like very nice. I appreciate it. I hope you're not sick of seeing this shirt, but because I wear it a lot, I know, but like, I just really like it. You know, it has been a minute since I've used this palette. It's still one of my faves. It's still a go-to palette. Like if I really don't know what I'm gonna do, I still grab this. It just has been a while since I've like crafted a look with it. And wow, it still blends the way it's just incredible. I love this eyeshadow palette. I'm curious to see, you know, it's so funny. We were doing Critical Sass, and I'm going to say this here. I'm not committing to it yet, but it does seem that the releases are ramping up again. And I obviously I've kind of predicted this. Obviously, if you've been in this space for any amount of time, you know that like end of August is really when things start picking up and they start showing us fall and like holiday releases. It might be time to go. I've already said that I was going to do this. I basically, whenever things slow down in the new year, I do Critical Sass once a month to allow some releases I'm actually interested in to come out. But now we're kind of getting into the consumerism season, so I think it's more important to talk everyone out of new makeup releases, even if I'm not super interested in them, or if they're a popular release that I wouldn't buy, because I feel like Critical Sass, like for the first 7 months of the year, is more about like things I'm interested in and kind of talking myself out of and like giving myself a month to pull things to kind of chit chat about. The second half of the year is more like bam, bam, bam. We might be going back up to two episodes of Critical Sass a month, which is exciting because it does help me not have to think of video concepts. I'm not gonna lie. That's like one of the nice parts. I'm just being honest. I'm just sharing my honest feelings with you. And again, it's not because I don't like coming up with concept ideas, but like I feel the first half of this year has really kicked my butt, I'll say. I'm going in with Elephant from Chantecaille. Normally I do put a glitter primer down for the Chantecaille shades. I think the reality of it is I just don't feel like it today. Also, I actually worked out before doing this video, which is uncommon for me. Typically, I film my YouTube videos just based on like, I've said this before, like when everyone else in the house is, you know, not here. And so typically that means I have to do it like immediately after my 9 to 5 so that like I can film in peace, so to speak. It's not that big of a deal. I've certainly filmed whenever the child has been here, you know, screaming his little face off. That audio stuff, I've learned a little bit about audio. I learned enough about audio to mostly edit out his screaming if he happens to be here. That's where we're at with the eye look. And I'm going to take one of the shimmery shades. I'm going to go with this champagne-y shade, the top one. I'm going to go in with a very fluffy brush and just sweep that on top of Elephant, which is really sparkly, but I didn't pack it on like I usually do. You know how I said it's like a warmer taupe? It is looking kind of cool toned against all the warm tones. So I want the sparkly topper to kind of like bring it back to something a little bit warmer. But there are gold sparkles. I feel like the sparkles in this shade that I'm topping Elephant with basically look like the sparkles that are already in Elephant. So that's where we are. And then I'm going to line my eyes. This is something that I don't pull out very often. Well, it's also broken. It's also broken. Kofi sent this. This is like some of my first PR. It was from Kofi. This is like, this eyeliner is like some of my first PR I ever got as a content creator. This is the shade Tiger Queen in their eyeliner. I think this eyeliner is really good, but I think that this shade is like their star. But like, just adding a little bit of warmth, like a little more something intense in the waterline. Now, some people might not like that because it might make them look a little bit sickly, but I think this is how I can add a little bit of color, like coming from the references of the Guerlain and the Apple palette from Too Faced. It just gives a little something to nod to those without being those. But as I said in Critical Sass, straight reds tend to be what make me look unwell, like when they're on my face. So I just kind of like avoid reds. I think they look really pretty right next to my eye. If I like do like a build something around red, or if there's a red flip to something, I think that can look really good on my eyes. But I think going in like all red can make me look just like unwell sometimes. I'm gonna take some tape and clean off the sparkle and then we will move on. I guess I have to do a new makeup video soon. I'm allowed to talk about this out. I got an email that I could talk about it. I'm not gonna use it in this video. I've been using it behind the scenes for a little bit. It's the Merit Great Skin Moisturizer. This launches August 22nd and I've been testing it out. First of all, it showed up on my doorstep. I got an email that they were sending a product. So it looked like I bought it, but it zeroed out. So like, it just was like a receipt for a product. And I saw the Great Skin. So I thought they were just sending me the Great Skin serum oil thing, which I do like. And I haven't had in a while. And now I don't have any face oils as primers. And I was like, oh, that's kind. Maybe they're doing like a re-promote of it. Then I read it and it was a moisturizer and I was like, okay. And this is not a Merit specific thing, but I'm going to use Merit as a demonstration. So sometimes brands will send you things early. I think you know this because a lot of times when something launches, a bunch of people launch videos the day of the launch so that you can have information to buy that thing the day it launches. Or sometimes they can talk about it before the release so that you can get your order ready beforehand so that whenever something launches, you have some information about it. But sometimes, and Merit's not the only brand that's done this. Sometimes brands will just send you a product and then you'll look it up to see if it's on their website and it wasn't. And then I also didn't get anything in the box with this. There was just no communication about when I could talk about it when it was launching. So I just like had this like for a week or so. So then I emailed a contact I had a while ago and I was like, hey, it's been a really long time. Like I got this in the mail. So thank you. There's no like date on it when I'm allowed to talk about it, but I don't see it on your website and I don't like, I see you teasing it, but when am I allowed to talk about this? And they were like, oh yeah, it's so great. Thank you for, but it was just like, baby, I think the rule of thumb shouldn't be I should have to check. The rule of thumb should be if you send it to me and you don't communicate in email, but what they should do is in the box that it comes with, just have something in there that tells you what date it was. Like whenever Andromeda's collection came to me, which I'll show you. I'm gonna do a creator rant for a second. Allow me the space. I opened the box of Andromeda's collection, confidential, keep these secret until 8, which makes sense because the product is in front of me. Other brands have sent me product before and the product came to me before their email about not talking about it. I took a guess that I shouldn't talk about it. I really do think it should work like, if I get it and you have not communicated clearly and well and on time, that I should be allowed to talk about it. I shouldn't have to sit here nervous and be like, I don't know when I'm allowed to talk about this. And like, the worst thing that would do is like, I would have to like edit out a part of my video. But like, but like when you do that, when you edit out a part of video, it messes with YouTube's analytics. It's like a whole thing. It's like a whole thing to do that. So it's like, it's mostly worth it for me to not do that. Okay, let's reconvene. Hello, everyone. Are you here? So in Critical Sass, I talked about the primer that's releasing from Prada, or that has been released. Whenever I was pulling images for Critical Sass, I saw that it was already on Sephora's website, which it was like a soft matte primer. And that's like not really my preferred kind of primer, but I actually have one right now, and it's from Danessa Myricks. This is the Danessa Myricks Universal Blurring Balm Powder, which can be used in a number of ways. And I have found, for me, the best thing to use it for is primer. I'm not going to show you the inside of it. I have shamefully shown you the inside of this once. So I'm just going to take a brush and I'm just going to press it into the skin. And I think this product is okay. I know some people really love it. Some people really hate it. I really truly like just live in the middle. We've talked about it in Critical Sass during Pride Month. Like, the way the brand has handled their Pride releases has just really put me off them. And it's not that I think that like they're homophobic or transphobic. It's just like, we're not learning our lessons, and it's just like, I don't need to give you my money. That's it on this side of the face. I do like a soft blur for my primer. I do feel as though like it's just not my favorite way to prep my face. As you know, I really do like a blur, but I think I like it to come from my foundation product. I like it to come from, and I don't know, why am I this choosy about it? I don't know. I just find that it works the best when it's like in other products and not the primer, because sometimes I feel like the blurring primers, they often seem to be the primers that give people issues with like pilling and stuff. I did not really had that issue with this. I think this is a nice product. All that being said, it's just like, it's not my favorite. I talked about a couple of skin tints. I actually edited out we talked about a couple of skin tints. I was like, I think talking about the Sigma Skin Tint is enough, and it's kind of more relevant to my channel. If you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, I think you know what I'm gonna say that I'm going to use instead. But in case you are new here, the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Tint has been my favorite product that's come out this year. I think contextually, for those of you who might be new to my channel and just clicked on this, I'm not like one of those, and it's not that I dislike Lisa Eldridge. I don't want anyone to say that, but like, I haven't sipped the Kool-Aid. Like, I haven't like decided that Lisa Eldridge is the best thing that's ever happened to makeup. Like, I feel like some people have, but it's not where I'm sitting. So it came as a little bit of a surprise to me that this ended up being like a product that it like blew me away. I have tried a handful of other Lisa Eldridge things. I don't feel that way about everything that I've tried from Lisa Eldridge, but this blew me away. The other thing is the Sigma Skin Tint only comes in a couple of shades, and this comes in, I think, 17 or 18 shades, and they're a little bit flexible, but Lisa Eldridge tends to do pretty good with her shade ranges. That's one nice thing about it. This is $50. The Sigma one is $39. And I'm not going to try to say that $11 is no money. If you're already willing to spend $40 on a skin tint, what's $50 on a skin tint? But that's me speaking from a place where like that's how my brain works. Like $10 isn't enough for me. Like, I feel like I'm saving a lot of money by buying a $40 thing as opposed to buying a $50 thing. But that's just how my brain works. Anyway, I'm not trying to like be like everyone needs to buy the Lisa Eldridge skin tint. You might not be interested in skin tints or whatever. I happen to really like skin tints. It's a good category for me. It's really the kind of coverage I'm looking for. You know, I was just talking about blurring in my foundation product. This is a product that has a very good amount of blur. I think the thing that's best about this is like, it just looks like your skin. It doesn't go too matte. It doesn't go too dewy. It just kind of, it's a real second skin look. This is the shade T3, and it is basically a perfect match for me. Squirt it out too much, so I'm just kind of like adding a little bit more where I need it. The only thing I will say is I think that like this skin tint kind of, I would say it's like medium light coverage. Like not that it's like a medium coverage, but like, let's say if there was light coverage foundations, like this is just, this whole scale is light. The coverage on this is like full coverage light. It's like the most coverage you could get with still considering it light. Like, you can still see my redness through the foundation. And actually, I've not ever used this combo. I can't say I love the way that this skin tint looks on top of that primer. And I've not really had that issue with it before. Another thing, going back to the primer a little bit, I really do like my primers to be almost like a second moisturizer, which I have oily skin, so that's like not going to be for everyone with oily skin, but I just like the way makeup sits on kind of like juicier skin than matte skin. I might have to give up the ghost on this. Like, it's fine if I'm wearing something really luminous, and I have done that before. I don't particularly like the way my skin's looking today. And that's weird because that's not how this usually performs. Deductive reasoning tells me that it's probably the primer. We talked about a contour product on Critical Sass, which is kind of rare. So Dior is releasing contour sticks, or has released. I've seen some people put it in their thumbnails that they have tried some of these. I pulled out Intuition from Ritual Defy. I've repotted this. This used to be in like the regular thing, but mine broke. And I decided that I was going to declutter my Victoria Beckham bronzer because it kind of had hard pan on. It wasn't really working. But then I didn't want to get rid of the compact because the compact is beautiful. It became the home for my Ritual Defy Inner Glow cream pigment. And honestly, I probably will just keep buying Intuition as my cream contour. And I probably will just keep depotting it into this because I love this. And I think the Ritual Defy compacts are really, really cute. This is like luxe and heavy, and it just feels like a shame to get rid of. And it's like, well, now I've found this new, I've given it a new life, and I like that new life. And I do just love the product from Ritual Defy, and it's like, well, why not? I wonder if too, not that I want to have that much contour, but I feel like I use contour. I had hit pan on this before I moved it into this compact. It's a product I moved through, but I think maybe having two in there would be a little bit much. I need to get better about like evenly depotting cream products. That was the first time I think I don't know if that's 100% true, but like, it's what I, off the top of my head, it feels like the first time I actually depotted a cream into another thing. My little ham on my hairline. I got my hair touched up. I was talking about that. I needed it. It's here. Thank God. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I already said this on my Instagram stories, you don't understand what's happening. I think we're now at a point where it's very clear where we're headed, and hopefully you can see it. So it's still going to be mullety, but what we were doing is like on the back of my head, it was shaved just completely to the skin, and there was the mullet down here, but it was completely shaved. I'm now growing all of it out because I want to have long hair. I want to have long hair, but I love my baby bang, so we're keeping the baby bang. And I don't like this hair being in my face. It makes me feel, I like the skin fade. So it's just kind of a skin fade to the ear. So this part of my face is always going to look like this, but the back here is getting long, and it is getting long enough that sometimes, depending on, you know, how my hair has been sitting, it actually can touch my shoulder, just to breeze it, because like sometimes I'll feel like there's a bug on my shoulder. So we're getting there. But my hairstylist, she did tell me, she was like, I think we might be able to get extensions on by the end of the year. So the extension fund is still open. You can Venmo me to add to the extension fund, or if you want that to be my birthday present, my birthday is in 2 months. So if you just want to Venmo me by the way, I just want to say that I understand that's really ridiculous that I'm asking you to do that. You literally don't have to. You literally do not have to do that. But one of you did, and I don't know your name off the top of my head, but when I tell you, I think I was in the bathtub and I got a Venmo sent to me, and it said hair extension fund. So if you want to be part of that, feel free. Although maybe that's just what I'll ask people from. It's like, don't do anything for, well, take me out for drinks, but also just give me money for my hair extensions. Oh, I'm gonna be so it's gonna be so fun. In Critical Sass, we talked about Ilia's terrible bronzer release. We recorded that last Thursday, and then we actually went to the mall on Friday. And I did not buy the Tom Ford. I know I joked about going to the Tom Ford counter. They did have it, and I did touch the Tom Ford powder. We're not talking about powders yet, but we'll talk about it in a second. But it was interesting to actually go touch things after we had just talked about them in Critical Sass. The Ilia bronzers, they are just as perplexing to interact with in person as they were to like talk about and try to wrap your head around. So instead of buying that thing, I'm going to use my Chanel cream bronzer, a bronzer with an equally terrible shade range, but is a beautiful product. A product worth yelling at Chanel to extend the shade range on, because it is really, really pretty. So the Ilia bronzers, take what I say with a grain of salt. I like touched it once. I swatched it on my arm. So like that's all I did with it. I didn't take pictures. I don't know. So you're not supposed to film in a Sephora. I think that's such a burden on employees too, just to like, I don't want to have to tell you to stop filming. It's like Can you just like simply not do that? Can you just simply not film in the store? All I'm saying is like, I don't know. So because I used to work there, I'm not pulling my phone out to like try to record anything. And I know like it would be different if I was just like taking a picture of a swatch, but then I'm really bad about keeping track of my photos when I try to do stuff like that. It was like really greasy feeling. It was like really, really, really greasy feeling. And it also felt like a powder. It was a really bizarre thing to interact with. Also not pigmented, but felt heavy on the skin. It was like a wild thing. Recommend, even if you're not interested in it, next time you're at a Sephora that carries Ilia. By the way, Ilia is coming to Ulta. I'm just saying, what's going on? What's going on with that? Anyway, Ilia also released a highlighter in the same terrible formula. So instead of, I have some cream formulas that I like, but I think this is going to go better with like the overall vibe of the makeup I'm doing today. So I'm just going to use this, but basically everything I just said about the bronzer version of it, I feel the same way about the highlighter. Although I didn't swatch the highlighter because the bronzers basically looked just like highlighters. And I did swatch, and I mean, I didn't put on my face or anything, but I did swatch the deepest one just to like look at it because it was so perplexing. I don't know how that was supposed to be a bronzer for anyone, but okay, Ilia. Yeah, I'm not really liking the way everything's sitting on my skin right now. Ugh. For blush today, I have two options. We talked about a couple of different blushes. So we talked about the cream blushes from Nudestix, and it's not a stick. I stand by that. And I thought of my Phytosurgeon's blushes actually, and I was like, why mess with the terrible Nudestix ones when Exothermic is right here, right? And it's very nuanced and beautiful and gorgeous, and like Nudestix could literally never. And then I also thought about the Fenty blushes, which we did get to swatch them, but they did not have the one shade I was interested in. They had one of the two lightest shades, and I'm not really sure why the display didn't have them, or maybe I didn't look hard enough. And it was interesting because I don't know how long those have been out. Typically new stuff's on the top part of the bay. It was like on the second shelf, so maybe I missed it, but it looked like they only had some of the powder blushes, but they also might have been elsewhere in the store because sometimes that happens. It'll be like at the front and then also at the side. Just some insight from a former Sephora employee. But this shade from, this ombre shade from Chanel, this is a discontinued shade, but this shade reminded me a little bit of that lightest shade. Speaking of Chanel, they're releasing cream blushes and they're releasing a shade called Something Beige. I posted about it on my Instagram story while I was a little bit tipsy last night. I'm thinking about it. It's like a weird shade because it looks camel, like a camel yellow, which I'm also interested in. I think for today's look, because of how kind of like warm brownie we are, I think either one would work. And since we're kind of just doing a lot of cream stay, I'll just do the Phytosurgeon's one. And I feel like I haven't worn Exothermic in a minute. I'm putting it like directly on top of the highlighter too, just to add a little bit of shine. I do feel like my skin looks really dead. We're gonna finish off today's look with Fix Plus. Wow. Exothermic. Literally Nudestix could never, ever, ever, ever make a color like that. A lot of mainstream brands would and could never. That really snatched the face in, didn't it? Wow. That really added a lot. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the highlighter on top to just for a little bit of gradient. Feel like I'm actually like there's some progress on here. It doesn't feel like there's like a ton in there. I don't think there's like a ton in there to begin with, if I'm being really honest with you, but like it's starting to like feel a little deflaty, which is pretty cool. Let's come back to my skin. So I'm not doing anything different with my skin. I have been trying some new products, but they have seemingly worked out fine, and this is the first I've been using them for a couple of weeks, so this would be weird for them to start making my skin look weird with makeup now. But I have been using some new skincare. I have not powdered my face yet, and I feel like all of the creams I used, even this, it felt like I was putting this all on top of powder. And I know that this is like called a balm powder, but it's never really worked like that. We talked about a couple powders in Critical Sass. We talked about some expensive powders in Critical Sass. So I'm going to use some beautiful expensive powders. We talked about, the first one we talked about was the Prada one. And then we also talked about the Tom Ford one. And I'm going to use my Hourglass translucent pressed powder. If we weren't doing the aftersass, I probably wouldn't powder my face, but I'm just finishing out the project, you know, finishing out what we came here to do. Maybe just using a little less powder. See how that blurred my face? I feel like this is where I like to see the blur, because as much as I like to see a blur before I put things on, I feel like the powder blur works better for my skin type, I think. Maybe like for oily skin, like the blur coming in the powder is maybe better for me. I don't know. Let me know down below what you're thinking. I'm gonna add a little bit of this under the eyes. This is the Charlotte Tilbury airbrushed powder. I haven't done my makeup since I filmed Critical Sass, and it's Wednesday the following week, so it's been like a minute since I put on makeup. I'm grabbing random brushes that I don't usually grab. And then the Pièce de Resistance. So I talked about in Critical Sass how I had an $80 powder. This is the $80 powder, the one from Chantecaille. And I bought a backup. If you've been here, you maybe know that I bought a backup. And I actually gave it to Tiff. So we both have one of these. I'm just going to press that into the front parts of my face. Okay, I think that's all the color cosmetics that I talked about. I'm going to spray my face. I'm going to add mascara. And then we will wrap everything up. So it's starting to get cooler out. It's starting to cooler out at night, which is really nice. So like when I wake up, because I start work at like 6 in the morning, it's normally like 60 degrees outside. And we still have the air conditioning on because during the day it's still getting up to 80. And when you live with a child, when there's a child involved, your house has to be like pretty temperature controlled, right? So the child can comfortably sleep. But in the mornings, before it would really affect anything, I've been cracking the windows open and there's been just like a nice little chill coming in. It's delicious. I'm so excited about it. I'm not here trying to wish away your summer, by the way. I think this is where fall people and summer people have that coalesce, where it's like, it's good for everyone because like the fall people starting to get it in the morning. If you're in a part of the world where like whenever fall happens, you get the chilly, whenever you start the chill of that. But what's really going to be weird is like, if this is where we're headed, unless, you know, it comes back and gets a little hot again in September, which is very possible. It happens a lot. I'm going to Palm Springs, and if it happens to like be chilly here, and then I go to Palm Springs in September where it will still be like 90 degrees, it's going to be weird. I'm just going to use the Bella Beauté Bar mascara. I don't think we talked about those lip oils. So I'll throw on a lip oil. How about that? It's not going to be holographic though. That's okay. That's what I was having. I was trying to find, while I'm putting on mascara, I was trying to find a dupe for like some lip products, but we only really talked about the Give Me Glow lip oil, which are these like holographic lip oils. I have some sparkly lip oils, but nothing that has that kind of like duochrome craziness. So I think I'm just going to use one of my beautiful In Beauty Project ones because it's a lip oil, but not really because it fits the brief. But I also think putting on like a holographic lip with this look would be quite the turn of events. Do any of you use Marco Polo? And if you do, like, are you actively using it? Because it's like they've made some like weird updates that I don't really care for. They started doing transcripts, which I think is like cool. I think that's great, right? Like, because especially speaking from an accessibility standpoint, I think that's great. What I don't like about that feature is that it kind of is like trying to bully you into like opening the message sooner, because it's like, you got a message and now we're kind of telling you what it's about. But also, nothing is that pressing that I'm getting through Marco Polo that I need to like watch it immediately. Like if someone really like SOS needs me, they're not gonna Marco Polo me. Probably gonna call me on the cellular phone. Sorry, I'm adding a little more sparkle because the mascara, I don't know what's going on. I cannot get mascara back off. Back off my face these days when I mess up, but it might just be the two formulas I'm using because it's never been an issue before, these two formulas. Oh, the lip oil. I think the Pina Colada one, I think that's what it's called. Pina Colada from In Beauty. Still been loving these. I have been working on some other lip products though. Now, if you don't watch someone's Marco Polo, like by around dinner time, it's like, you missed a polo. It's like, maybe I chose not to watch it. And literally I have, because today Tiff was working from home. So like I couldn't Marco Polo people because Tiff and I were like working in the same room, and it would be really weird to like listen to these Marco Polos and talk. Anyway, here's the final look. I think this is actually a really pretty look. I've been, you know, I'm a cool toned girl. Like first and foremost, it's like where my heart lies. But this like warm leaning look, and I would say warm leaning because I feel like I could definitely have gone like a lot warmer, but like I think the warm eye with the cool lid, the taupe lid from Chantecaille, the elephant shade, and then the toasted blush, the evaporate blush from Phytosurgeons, which are like these like cool, like these like kind of gray blushes. Like it like kind of brought it all together. And then this bronzer is pretty warm. Yeah, I'm not pleased with my skin, so this is the only thing that I'm not super familiar with that I use today. It's like not worth it for me to keep it around. So I'm going to like, I'm going to figure something out with it. Hopefully someone will take it off my hands, even though it's kind of gross. You know, every now and then something just happens. And luckily it's a mini, so it's not like a huge thing. Anyway, that wraps up the video. What are you interested in? What's the new stuff that you think you really like? And then what's the thing in your collection that kind of is like that thing? I'd love to know in the comments down below. Like I said, if you're not subscribed already, I would love to have you subscribe. What I like to do here is to help myself and help you be more discerning about the makeup, clothing, and fragrance that we are buying. So we're not overbuying, especially as we start heading into these months where there's going to be a lot of money spent. Just, you know, you don't need to spend all of that money probably. And I'm here to try to persuade you to just use what you have. But I also do reviews on here, and I also do just buy some makeup sometimes because I'm interested in it, but I try to make the best decision I possibly can, and I will normally take you on that journey with me. So if that sounds good to you, I would love to have you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. I'm on Patreon and I have channel memberships if you are into that kind of thing. It's just a different way to support me, not necessarily a better way to support me. I do additional content over there. I don't know if I already said that, so check that out if you're interested. No pressure though. But that's also a way to help fund the hair extensions. If you're pro hair extensions and you want something out of it other than me having beautiful hair extensions, which I think is well worth your money for me, I have a GoFundMe linked in the pinned comment of this video. That GoFundMe will help a family in Gaza, help them get things they need and help their family escape. If you have the means to do that, please do that. And that's gonna end the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in a video very soon. Go forth. It's out.